June 30, 2008, marked a shocking moment in the world of justice. Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire financier, walked out of court with a smirk, avoiding serious federal charges. The deal that freed him remained hidden from his victims, some only teenagers. The prosecutor in charge, Alexander Acosta, later became Trump's labor secretary. Epstein's sentence was unusually lenient, 18 months in jail, with daily work release privileges. During this time, he continued his operations with little oversight. Even law enforcement personnel observed irregularities. Complaints filed by deputies went unaddressed. Evidence gathered by the FBI, including dozens of testimonies, never led to immediate accountability. The non-prosecution agreement granted immunity to his associates, allowing influential figures linked to his network to avoid prosecution. Epstein's wealth and connections had effectively insulated him from the law. Questions about how prosecutors were influenced remain. Victims' legal representatives faced obstacles, even disbarment, for pursuing justice. The system that was supposed to protect minors failed repeatedly. March 14, 2005, began a crucial investigation. Detective Michelle Pagan received a report about a minor recruited under suspicious circumstances. Epstein's activities were increasingly documented, revealing patterns of exploitation. Detective Pagan quickly identified a recurring scenario. Young individuals were recruited through incentives and peer influence, creating a network of recruitment that targeted vulnerable teenagers. Within weeks, additional victims were identified. Each shared a consistent story. They were brought to Epstein's properties under false pretenses, and the environment involved manipulation and coercion. By May 2005, Pagan had interviewed dozens of girls. Many described being directed by Epstein's staff and encountering situations beyond their control. These reports painted a broader picture of systematic abuse. By October 2005, law enforcement had statements from multiple victims and witnesses. Chief Michael Ryder authorized further investigation, including searching through discarded materials outside Epstein's property. The investigation revealed documents, notes, and other physical evidence pointing to patterns of exploitation. Items discovered suggested the operation was more extensive than initially understood. Police executed a search warrant on Epstein's residence on October 20, 2005. The materials collected included photographs and records indicating potential multiple victims. These findings strengthened the case. State Attorney Barry Krischer received the evidence anticipating standard prosecution. Recommendations from Palm Beach Police included multiple felony counts with substantial penalties. Instead of pursuing charges, Krischer convened a grand jury under unusual circumstances, presenting a single case to the jury and limiting access to evidence. This approach drew public scrutiny. The grand jury returned a significantly reduced charge, resulting in a minimal sentence. Chief Ryder publicly criticized the handling of the case, highlighting irregularities in prosecution practices. The Palm Beach Post reported on the controversy, bringing attention to the perceived failings in the legal system. Observers noted the disparity between evidence and outcome. Epstein's legal team, including high-profile attorneys, aggressively engaged with the prosecution. Their strategies involved frequent communication, motions, and leveraging influence in legal and academic circles. The federal case progressed, building toward a detailed indictment. The indictment outlined potential violations across state lines and implicated multiple associates in coordinating illegal activity. Despite mounting evidence, negotiations led to a non-prosecution agreement. Epstein agreed to plead guilty to lesser state charges, while federal prosecutors dismissed more severe charges. The non-prosecution agreement included clauses keeping victims uninformed, violating federal victim notification requirements. Victims only learned about the deal after it was finalized. On June 30, 2008, Epstein officially entered a guilty plea for state-level offenses, receiving a minimal jail sentence with privileges. This sentence was widely criticized for its leniency. During incarceration, Epstein had access to work release and continued to meet visitors under supervised conditions. Oversight mechanisms proved insufficient to prevent further misconduct. Complaints filed by deputies and others regarding observed misconduct went unresolved, further eroding confidence in the system. Epstein was released in July 2009 after serving just over a year. Victim attorney Bradley Edwards discovered the details of the deal posthumously, realizing that federal requirements had been bypassed. Attempts to challenge the agreement took over a decade to resolve. During the intervening years, Epstein maintained residences across the globe and continued hosting influential guests. Flight logs and visitor records indicated ongoing high-profile interactions. Despite being a registered offender, Epstein continued to interact with elites, including political figures, business leaders, and royalty. Public records demonstrated the continued reach of his influence. The system allowed Epstein to operate with minimal risk, illustrating vulnerabilities in oversight and enforcement. His decade of relative freedom raises questions about institutional responsibility. Investigative journalism played a key role in uncovering these events. Julie Brown's reporting for the Miami Herald brought renewed attention to the case and exposed systemic failings in prosecution. Her work revealed coordination between prosecutors and Epstein's legal team, including attempts to control media messaging and limit victim access. Public response highlighted outrage at these practices. The investigation detailed connections between Epstein and high-profile individuals, revealing dinners, meetings, and travel that created an ecosystem of influence. These social networks masked underlying criminal activity. Financial records showed complex management of Epstein's assets, with layers of entities obscuring transparency. These mechanisms enabled him to maintain wealth and influence despite legal scrutiny. New federal investigations emerged as journalists and authorities pushed for accountability. Public corruption units and financial oversight teams scrutinized transactions and properties across multiple jurisdictions. French, New Mexican, and U.S. Virgin Islands authorities participated in coordinated efforts to examine properties, flight logs, and financial transfers. International cooperation became critical to uncover the full scope. March 2019 marked significant developments as French police and U.S. authorities executed searches and collected evidence. These actions revealed further documentation of the operations and potential accomplices. By July 2019, Epstein returned to U.S. custody under federal indictment. The charges reflected trafficking violations recognizing minors as victims rather than labeling them as participants in illegal activity. Investigators seized extensive materials, including digital evidence, financial assets, and identity documents. These items were crucial in connecting broader networks of co-conspirators and enablers. The bail process emphasized the risk posed by Epstein's resources. High-value properties, private aircraft, and global connections made him an extraordinary flight risk. Court proceedings demonstrated that prior convictions did not erase ongoing concerns regarding potential threats to the community. Evidence from 2019 indicated continued patterns of abuse and influence. Epstein's incarceration in the Metropolitan Correctional Center placed him in a highly controlled environment. Standard monitoring and security protocols were intended to prevent harm or escape. Despite these measures, procedural errors and understaffing resulted in lapses in oversight. Epstein's death occurred under circumstances that prompted public and institutional scrutiny. Investigations into the incident examined camera functionality, staff performance, and compliance with prison regulations. Findings highlighted systemic failures and procedural shortcomings. Following Epstein's death, civil litigation allowed victims to pursue financial redress. Settlements were awarded from his estate, although criminal prosecution of many enablers remained limited. Ghislaine Maxwell was later arrested and convicted for her role in facilitating abuse. demonstrating that accountability for associates was possible even after Epstein's death. High-profile figures associated with Epstein, through flight logs and social engagements, issued denials or settled claims without admitting wrongdoing. Court orders partially sealed key records, limiting full public disclosure. Thousands of documents emerged through litigation, gradually revealing the extent of Epstein's network. Investigators and journalists pieced together fragments to illuminate broader patterns. Even without Epstein's testimony, evidence established that hundreds of victims were affected, yet many perpetrators and enablers remain unidentified or unprosecuted. Prosecutors involved in the 2008 agreement advanced in their careers, raising questions about incentives and accountability within the justice system. The systemic failures illustrated that institutional design and wealth-based influence could create conditions for prolonged impunity. Oversight mechanisms failed at critical junctures. Subsequent investigative journalism and reporting by authorities highlighted gaps in prior oversight and the need for reform. Epstein's case became a reference point for institutional accountability. Financial analysts documented ongoing flows through complex banking structures, exposing methods used to shield assets and support enablers. This fiscal dimension informed legal and civil strategies. Digital evidence recovered from properties revealed detailed communication patterns, visitor logs, and operational coordination. Technology played a central role in maintaining secrecy. Forensic specialists worked to decrypt and analyze legacy storage, revealing the scale of operations and supporting civil litigation. Data provided corroboration of historical accounts from victims. International cooperation allowed cross-border tracing of transactions, properties, and potential witnesses. Jurisdictional complexity required coordinated investigative efforts. Philanthropic activities were also examined, revealing how public-facing contributions and associations were leveraged for legitimacy and influence. Civil suits addressed the actions of enablers, trustees, and associates, highlighting responsibilities of third parties within complex networks. Settlements provided partial redress, but limited accountability. Flight logs and visitor records illustrated recurring patterns of interaction with elites, reinforcing the systemic nature of the network. Investigators examined recruitment methods, employment arrangements, and administrative structures within Epstein's operations to understand continuity and concealment strategies. Analysis of social, financial, and logistical networks revealed how Epstein maintained operations under the protection of influence and legal maneuvering. Cases highlighted ongoing gaps in institutional readiness to manage individuals with significant wealth and power. Lessons learned prompted reforms in monitoring, victim protection, and oversight. Evidence suggested ongoing risks even after Epstein's death, including potential enabler networks and residual financial influence. Civil litigation and journalistic work continued to uncover additional connections and operational details, providing transparency and accountability where criminal prosecution was limited. Patterns of coordination between media, law enforcement, and financial institutions illustrated how public perception was managed alongside legal outcomes. Researchers emphasized systemic weaknesses, including gaps in victim notification, monitoring, and institutional response to high-profile cases. Ongoing reporting and transparency efforts sought to prevent recurrence, ensuring lessons from Epstein's case informed policy and practice. Even decades later, Epstein's case remains a cautionary tale about power, privilege, and the importance of institutional vigilance. The story serves as a lens to examine broader societal structures, highlighting how influence and wealth can circumvent accountability without robust oversight. Authorities and journalists continue to review remaining leads with the goal of uncovering additional victims and understanding the full scope of the network. The case demonstrates the need for transparency in legal proceedings, ensuring that victims' voices are prioritized and protected from systemic neglect. Financial scrutiny continues to reveal transactions and asset flows, assisting civil litigators in recovering funds and holding enablers accountable. Institutional reforms inspired by this case include improvements in victim rights notification, cross-jurisdictional cooperation, and monitoring of high-risk offenders. Ongoing advocacy emphasizes preventive measures, highlighting the importance of education, reporting mechanisms, and oversight in vulnerable communities. Public awareness campaigns, investigative journalism, and civil action collectively contribute to accountability and reform. The Epstein case underscores the importance of multi-agency cooperation and rigorous oversight when wealth and power are involved. It also highlights the dangers of complacency and institutional deference to influential individuals. Victims' stories remain central, emphasizing the human cost and the importance of justice beyond financial compensation. Lessons from the Epstein case inform policies regarding safeguarding, monitoring, and the ethical responsibilities of professionals in finance, law, and government. The intersection of social influence, legal loopholes, and systemic weaknesses demonstrates the challenges in enforcing justice equitably. Ongoing research and advocacy ensure that future cases are approached with transparency and accountability.